Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Adita Karkera, Chief Data Officer for Deloitte's Government and Public Services. And it's my honor today to welcome my very good friend and the state CIO for the state of Nebraska, Dr. Matthew McCarville. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very nice to see you.
Another area that I've heard you being very passionate about is how to continue to enhance the data talent for the state of Nebraska. And I know you've taken up some really unique initiatives around that. Could you share maybe one or two examples with our audience on what you're doing to promote data talent in Nebraska?
Absolutely. So having been a professor, I've hired a lot of my ex-students as interns. And in private sector, I even hired my ex-students as some of my interns there. And some of those interns have worked for me 4 or 5 different places. And that really got me to understand the impact in the hunger of early career talent if they are brought in and they're let's say, equating it to a plant and you're giving it the right miracle grow in the beginning. You nurture that student, you nurture the intern, and you give them the right tools to want to make a difference. And I have seen that work. So what we're doing here is a shared ecosystem with the counties, K through 12, all the higher eds that we have, community college all the way through state university, where we are bringing in interns. We are also doing split intern models. So 2 days a week they work for the state, 2 days a week they work for K through 12 or the state college. And maybe they're cyber, maybe they're data, maybe they're BI, maybe they're AI, maybe they're machine learning. We're bringing in doctoral students. We're bringing in high school students even. Because I can teach a high school student how to use Tableau and Power BI. They can do dashboards, but maybe they're not the ones doing machine learning. And maybe that's a doctoral student. So we're bringing them in, but we're also harnessing the need for research on the academic side for dissertations. We're bringing in faculty across the different realms that are just in this desperate need for data. They need data. Well, the state's sitting on mountains of data that doesn't get analyzed because we just don't have the staff. So how do I leverage the research capacity of our institutions, whether it be applied in a community college and practicing teaching learning institution or very academic research theoretical level at the R1 level, and bring in those faculty and their students under them to write white papers, to write applied papers on how do you operationalize and use KPIs and metrics in the government to improve government services to constituents. We don't have the staff to look into those things. But if they can show us how to improve Medicare or Medicaid services or any entitlement program by researching our data to see where we're lacking and where those gaps could be, that's a win-win for the state, for the research world, for the applied and theoretical academic research titles. So we're really going full bore into a branched model with higher ed and K through 12.
Matt, that is amazing because I'm personally myself also an advocate of, trying to get these high school students and get our university students all the way to our doctoral students excited about what we do. And what you've started, I think, is a great movement in getting folks also interested in government jobs. Because that's the other thing, because I have so many times when people walk up and say, are there jobs for me really in government? I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So thanks for leading the way there. Matt, as you reflect on your journey as the state CIO, and I think you've been in this role for almost a year now, maybe share with us 1 or 2 key successes that you want to highlight maybe for your team and you.
Absolutely. In the about 18 months I've been here, every state's different. And so I'll preface with that, right? What worked in Florida, what worked in Colorado, won't work in Nebraska. So I spent a lot of time understanding how we got here. Why are we here? Why do we do things the way we do? And then breaking it, finding out where I can break it with the least impact, but the most modernization capabilities. The staff here has been very forward thinking in grasping on the modernization clinch. They've been wanting to do that for decades, but been told it's not feasible, whether it'll be financially, resource wise. Just it takes too long, right? The procurement cycle is 2 years long. So why should we do it? We'll just renew what we've been doing. And then they do that 5 times, 5-year contracts. And then they wonder 20 years later how they got into the position they're in. So we are really looking at every contract, every vendor relationship. We are going from calling vendors, which some of them really hate, to calling them partners. But if you're going to be a partner with this state, you're going to truly be a partner. This isn't a transactional relationship. This is a long-term relationship. We are working with the local strategic air command, Air Force base and the feds to be able to pump our interns through in cyber and AI, top secret security clearance programs, so that they can become that top tier talent with a basis formed in their education and applied understanding at the state of Nebraska. So we become that avenue that they are benchmarking our standards for education and training and moving into the federal area and partnering with us, whether it be Fed to state or state to Fed. And you were at our data summit last week when you talked, and you did an amazing job. And you got to see that we were really trying to figure out that branch between Fed, state, Fed. Where can we help them? Where can they help us? And that's really where we're looking at in this state, that moving forward, we both need to work together and finding those avenues to do that where we're better together.
And congratulations on your inaugural Data and AI Summit, Matt. I should have started with that, but what a great event. Well, Matt, you have had such a fantastic journey with your extensive experience in the private sector and the public sector, a variety of roles as well. There are a lot of people looking up to you. As the audience listens to this particular episode, what is one piece of advice you have for them as they think about a career journey, as they think about a career in the government sector and in the data and AI space?
I think concentrating on the kind of impact that they could have, right? That's the biggest thing I think that they get to have in public sector is immediate impact down to the citizen level, modernizing state IT, getting into the data and analytics side, right? We're starting that from scratch here. So you're basically being in a government startup is kind of how we're looking at it. How do you ramp up? How do you scale up properly? How do you have the biggest impact from right out of the gate? How do you prove that this is of value, right, to citizens, to legislatures, to senates, to the governor's office? How do you make sure they all understand the impact of data and AI? And we have been working very hard at showing, AI governance and AI ethics, as far as making sure those are considered and being part of the integral decisions before you start turning things on. So we're working with vendors that help us with the governance as much as we are working with the data cleansing and the enablement, because they all want to enable it, but they don't want to think about the ramifications if you do things outside of ethical or legal boundaries. And not every amazing use case for AI is legally able to be implemented in the public sector, especially in entitlement programs. So you can't concentrate on churn and turnover on entitlement programs. It's just a different way of looking at things. So how do you use the AI to our advantage to be more efficient is a lot of the things we're looking at. And that impact from an individual contributor perspective, I don't think has ever been greater. I think in public sector, you have a lot of states modernizing, a lot of states figuring out how do they leverage data and AI. They're all looking at it as the next future stage that will have the highest impact on government. And that will also be the highest impact you get to have as an individual contributor or a citizen moving into the public sector in the workforce, is how do you move government forward? And I think that's really the field that is going to do the highest impact in moving government forward. It'll be getting off the mainframe. It'll be multi-cloud, but all of that hinges on the fact that our data is clean, that we can leverage AI, that we can use AI in cyber, we can use AI in log analysis, we can get out of the mainframe and use multi-cloud, all the vendors in the multi-cloud ecosystem. We can do a lot of those things that students wouldn't necessarily have the ability in their first job in corporate or consulting to be able to jump right into. They would have years of working their way up into that. Whereas in government, we can throw them right in the deep end and say, hey, we're going to swim right now. You're going to help us get there. And so you get to jump in the deep end quickly and have that huge impact right from the get-go. Some of our interns are working on projects that you wouldn't think that an intern would be working on. They're advancing UIs and government systems. They're doing constituent forums and interviews and making sure that we're using data in the most legal and ethical ways as we modernize our systems. And they're excited. They're genuinely looking at, how do I go get a master's program in this and apply it in public sector? And we have 3 interns looking at doctorate programs and applying computer intelligence systems to modernize government ecosystems as their projects. They're genuinely excited about how they can advance and impact government and the constituents that are impacted by government services. So I think there's a lot to think about when you're looking at workforce options, especially right out of college. Definitely an advocate of coming to work in the government sector, even if it's just for a few years.
Great advice, Matt. And I have to say, public sector service is really fulfilling, and being able to help directly or indirectly continue to shape and enhance how government can continue to do delivery for citizens is really satisfying. Thank you for that advice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt, and for sharing your experiences and your insights and your great career journey with the audience today. And for the rest of the audience, continue to stay tuned and watch out for other interviews coming out of this series.